What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with some pre-beta Anthem commentary. I've been watching a lot of streams and gameplay of this upcoming game from BioWare and EA this week, trying to get ready for the open beta, which is coming up the first weekend here in February. So Anthem is a game I've been watching closely because its original announcement excited me a little bit, just based on the fact that it seemed to be a game where you would get to build like your own cool Iron Man mech suit and run around and blow things up and just overall have a really good time. And the original footage they showed at E3 really kind of brought me into the game and got me a little bit hyped for it, although given how Mass Effect Andromeda worked out for BioWare, it was definitely a tempered hype for me. Well, as more and more information came out on Anthem, I kind of fell out of love, I guess, with the idea. First off, the lack of customization on a lot of the mechs, and the fact that you can't even build like your own custom mech suit. You have to play as one of the 4 predetermined classes of what they're calling the Javelin. That kind of turned me off a little bit, because given the amount of customization that usually goes into some of the BioWare character creators, my hope was that you would actually be able to treat your Javelin suit as kind of its own character and build it up from random parts and cosmetics that you could unlock throughout the game, instead of having this basically identical basic suit to what everyone else is going to be running. The only difference is going to be like paint schemes and customization skins that will most likely be locked behind microtransactions. But anyways, so as I've been watching a lot of the footage of this game that's been coming out, I don't really see how this game is going to do that well for BioWare. I have to be honest. I know a lot of people are hyped for it. There's a lot of other people that are comparing it to Destiny and Warframe. Some people are even obviously going to use the whole, oh, it's going to be the Destiny 2 killer, which we really got to stop, with that kind of commentary, because obviously Destiny has persisted and survived despite all these other games that have coming out around the same time, and Anthem is really not the same type of game. I'd actually argue that Destiny 2 at this point is a little more engaging than what I've seen from the Anthem gameplay so far. But that's probably for another video. But so I've been watching all this week, and I have some concerns about this game. This is not a game I would pre-order, obviously, and hopefully not too many people have done that already, because BioWare at this point has kind of burned a lot of their goodwill. But just watching this game, I can't help but talk about how boring it looks. The combat looks very slow paced. It's like most of the fights, people are just floating around and spamming their cooldowns. It's very slow paced to me. I just don't like the gameplay so far. The only Javelin that I've seen so far that I would even consider using, because it actually has a much faster pace of combat, is the Interceptor. And oddly enough, when I was watching the Interceptor gameplay, even the movesets for it, when it uses its ultimate, it reminded me so much of playing Valkyr in Warframe. If you guys don't know, Valkyr is a Warframe that has a very similar playstyle to the Interceptor Javelin, where you basically just dive into a group of enemies and unleash one of your powers, which is growing these claws, and then you can slash and kill just mobs and mobs of enemies with ease. But that's something that kind of stuck with me throughout the entire gameplay reveal this past week for Anthem, was just, it looks to me like a much slower paced Warframe within a larger open world, which obviously Warframe is kind of branching into that a little bit with their last few updates. But the biggest thing for me is, like, Warframe is free. You don't have to pay $60 for it, and then probably more down the road for DLC and microtransactions in order to get what looks to me to be a similar experience. Now, obviously, they're not giving us too much detail on the story of Anthem. But I just don't know. From going off the initial gameplay we've been allowed to see, from whether it's the streamers, the IGN stream reveal with BioWare, or even a lot of the Destiny YouTubers who are now swapping over to Anthem for fear that Destiny 2 is going to slowly die out now that Bungie has separated from Activision and doesn't have the resources, I just don't see it. And the things that really stood out to me, obviously, was the slow pace of the game, the slow pace of combat. The enemy AI looked terrible. They all just kind of stand there and let you shoot them. The gameplay looks very mundane. You just float and spam your cooldowns and abilities. The gunplay looked really, really bad to me. And that's coming from shooters like Halo and Destiny. Even The Division you just didn't seem like the guns just seem very boring and very mundane. They don't sound very unique. They don't look that cool. The different abilities the javelins have are pretty neat, like when they shoot out showers of missiles and things. But overall, the gunplay just seemed really bad. You know, especially when you compare it to a more mainstream AAA like a Destiny game. And there's also a few things that I didn't like. The fact that you can't change any of your gear on the fly, like as you're out playing free roam or playing these missions, you will get gear drops that are tied to the difficulty level of the mission you're playing. And you can't even see what you get when it drops. It just tells you, oh, you got a green or you got a blue or whatever. And then you can't actually see what that gear is until you get back to Fort Tarsus, which is like the main hub area that you're going to be operating out of. And you get like a post-mission screen. It tells you all the gear that you unlocked and the other things. So I don't like that much. The fact that you know, especially after coming from their last game with Andromeda, where you can literally change your entire class on the fly if you want to. And having come from games like Destiny and things where you can actually just swap gear in and out. And even Dragon Age Inquisition, you can swap gear in and out as you find drops from killing bosses and dragons and things. So that seemed like a really odd choice to me, where you can't upgrade your suit's gear. Like you get a weapon drop, you can't actually use it or see it until you're done with the mission, and you get all the way back to Fort Tarsus. So that seemed to be a really odd game design decision. I think a lot of people are probably not going to enjoy that too much, especially if you're coming from a game like The Division or Destiny, where you're used to just being able to have that gear flexibility throughout the game. So that's going to be interesting to see how that is handled. One of the other things I was reading about was the fact is all your gear is going to be tied to the difficulty with the game. I think it was PC Gamer. Someone had interviewed BioWare about this, and they were basically talking about the big concern with Anthem is whether or not you can play it and enjoy it as a solo player. Because if you are a fan of BioWare games like I am, having started with Star Wars: The Old Republic and going through that series of games and playing Dragon Age and playing Mass Effect, obviously. BioWare has always been a very good creator of single-player games and a single-player experience, but now they're branching out into this massive multiplayer type thing where it's going to be online all the time and you're going to be grouping with people. They are going to provide matchmaking for everything, which is cool. But the thing is, like, to me, with having both BioWare and Respawn under their umbrella, and with Respawn having made the Titanfall games, which despite the first game not being very well received, Titanfall 2 was an excellent game, and both games had really fun and pretty enjoyable multiplayer, at least to me. And I know they have kind of a cult following, but they never caught on with like the mainstream. But I think Respawn would have been a much better choice to develop a game like Anthem, especially since there's so much multiplayer going to be involved with it. But the big concern for me and a lot of other players is the fact that they're talking about the gear and the items you get in the game that you will use to level up your javelin. The rarity of those is going to be tied into the difficulty settings that you're playing on. Now they have different difficulty settings. They've got easy, normal, and hard to start off with. And then I think once you get through the main campaign and unlock things, they have like a master levels that go like I think 1, 2, and 3, where the enemy damage gets amplified by like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, whatever, and it becomes a lot harder to actually go through those. Well, according to the developers, you basically will be able to solo play easy and normal, but once you get up past normal, and even some of the normal level content is going to be difficult to handle for solo players, they said. So to me, that basically means that anything above normal, which is going to give you that much better gear, you're going to have to group up with the team, whether you want to or not. Now, I understand a lot of people are like, oh, just go get 4 friends and play the game. I get it. It's supposed to be easy, especially for some of the younger gamers who are, have all the free time and have a lot more friends. But for people like me who are in the older generation, where we kind of just want to get on and play, we don't want to have to spend half the time looking for a group, trying to find people to play with. Similar complaints I had to Destiny's LFG system. It's like, if I have to get on and spend an hour just to get a team organized when I only have an hour or two to play the game, that's just not going to work very well for me. And there's going to be issues with that kind of system. So I don't know if this game is going to be for solo players, for people who have gone through Mass Effect and Dragon Age, or fans of typical BioWare games who have gone through and done that before. I don't know if this is going to be a game for them or not. So it will be interesting to see again how that goes on. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about, too, was that EA and BioWare have also come out and said the game is going to drastically change from what we see in the beta, which is a very interesting comment for them to make. They basically said there's going to be changes within the difficulty. Apparently the alpha and the beta are really scaled down because they wanted the reviewers and people playing it to be able to show off the gameplay and have it not be a very difficult game for them. If you watch the IGN stream, you'll remember that they really struggled, even though apparently it's been toned down. The guys were dying left and right over and over again because they just really weren't very good at the game. I don't know why they pick people that aren't very good at video games to actually provide us information and review the games themselves, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. But it kind of concerns me that EA is talking about this already, saying it's going to be a drastic change from the beta, because they also mentioned the economy of the game would be different when the actual game releases compared to what you're going to experience within the beta. So that's kind of a big question mark. Like, why even? Because in most cases, as we've learned over the last couple of years, when they do a beta, we saw this with Destiny 2, The Division, a lot of these games that have been coming out, the beta is pretty much what the game is going to be. There were relatively no changes between the games I mentioned when they came out in the beta and then they came out in their release state. So usually the beta, even though they'll say, oh, it's going to be different, it's going to change, that is a very good indication of how the actual game is going to come out. So for them to flat out come out and say that, either they're full of crap or there's going to be some economy changes, and what I'm thinking that is probably EA with some kind of microtransactions, though BioWare has said time and time again with this game that it's only going to be for cosmetics. But we'll see how that plays out, and that you'll also supposedly be able to unlock everything with the in-game currency that you earn through just playing the game. So some interesting tidbits there. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about so far. Just the things that have been concerning me. Relatively, going back to the biggest thing is this game just looks really boring. You know, a lot of the times it just seemed like people were flying around, and one of the reviewers for, I think, PC Gamer even said the most enjoyable aspect of the game for him was just flying around the open map and enjoying the freedom of movement, which again, in my own humble opinion, doesn't look as smooth or as polished as what you get in Warframe, which is a free-to-play game, not a AAA developer. So those are my thoughts really on the upcoming beta. I'm going to be playing it, spending quite a lot of time with it. I'll be posting some videos on it when I play. I'll probably do some raw gameplay videos from it so you guys can see what it's all about if you're not taking part in the beta. And then I'll give my final impressions on, you know, on what I felt after watching all this footage this week and then getting to play the game myself next weekend. So we will see how it goes. I'm actually somewhat looking forward to it. I'm going into it with an open mind, even though I'm very concerned after watching everything this week. And hopefully they'll prove me wrong, and hopefully this is a game that will be pretty good, because quite honestly, I need a new game to play. I'm getting tired of playing Overwatch, especially with the state that game's in, and just playing a lot of older games right now. There's really been no new releases that have excited me lately, and I'm just looking for something new to kind of change things up a bit. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything in specific you want me to pay attention to in the beta next week. Thank you as always for watching. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you again next time.